All right, so good afternoon once again, and I warmly welcome you to your online webinar on women's rights. Today, we have a very special person who is Miss Lakshmi Murli, who is the founder of Lakshmi Murli and Associates, which is a very reputed law firm in Mumbai. With a diverse clientele spanning banks, investor groups, business conglomerates, and players both in the construction and the redevelopment sectors, she has solidified her reputation as a trusted advisor. In addition, Madam also serves as an external member on the internal committee for banks, business houses aimed at safeguarding the rights of women at workplace under the ambit of prevention of sexual harassment. Madam is deeply committed to pro bono initiatives, and her unwavering passion for social upliftment underscores her broader commitment to making a positive impact beyond the realm of advocacy. So, Lakshmi ma'am, we extend a very warm welcome to you on behalf of all the women and the entire SVC Bank.
Thank you.
For agreeing to conduct this very interesting webinar for all of us that is just going to cover property ownership to ancestral rights and marital rights, maintenance, rights of elderly for the property, solutions to the situations that one may encounter in the future. I don't think I want to say more. I'll leave you to, have this webinar for us. So, all over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Chaitali, can you unmute? Yeah. Okay, we couldn't unmute from here. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and a very, very happy Women's Day and in the week ahead for all of you. It's a pleasure. I've been associated with SVC for a long time, but a lot of new young faces that I see, and it's like really good. Now coming to the topic on women's right to property.
I'm sorry, I would just like to just come in for a minute. Your voice is a little faint. It's not very audible. It's a little soft.
Yeah, okay. Am I better now?
Still the same, ma'am, actually.
Yeah? Oh, okay.
Can the other participants hear, ma'am, clearly? I mean, if they can, then I think we are good to begin. Can I get a yes, a thumbs up, or a no?
Yes.
Ma'am, the others can hear you. So I think
okay.
You can.
We'll try to be louder. In Lord Macaulay's words, women's laws on property rights must be to secure uniformity where you can have it and diversity where you must have it. Chaitali said about women's property rights, and she mentioned a whole lot of areas. There are several facets to women empowerment. Empowerment in the field of education, employment, and so on and so forth. And this is something that all of us have been hearing over and about. I'm taking you slightly more specifically to the property rights. And again, when we say property rights is like a whole gamut of things, many facets interwoven in the property law itself. When we say property rights emanate from the Indian Succession Act. There are personal laws for the specifically to the Muslims, the Christians who fall into these personal laws, or personal laws govern them more than it governs us as Hindus. For the Hindus who form nearly 80% of the population, it becomes a little bit more specific in terms of what our rights can be. It is very famously said, it's an African method of saying it, that land belongs to man and the produce in it belongs to the woman. When we say what does this translate to, it's not just in India, all across the world we find that farmland is generally cultivated by the woman to feed her family and to make a living out of it, while she has barely or no say in how that piece of land is managed. If we just pause here and look at rural India, for instance, I think most of us know, we may not be directly farmers, but most of us know that the farmers in rural India are predominantly women. From sowing the seeds to reaping the crop, she does several things on the field, but unfortunately, the property right lacks in these women. They generally have no say in how the land is dealt with. However, we and the audience here are all far more privileged. The younger lot, the urban lot, who don't have to really deal with that kind of a situation. However, there is still a big gap between the what rights vests in men, what vests in the women. Having said that, the right to property, when I say property, we're talking largely about immovable property. When we is a phenomena that has found change over time. Law has grown leaps and bounds. It's like gone over the years from literally no rights to a very, very secure zone we are in. I would not really say it's still 100%, but we have grown. What was this time span? Any guesses? We started somewhere in 1935. In 1935 was the first time India found, our system found that we needed some laws to protect the women's rights. Her rights was confined to possessory rights or right to stay in a unit until such time that she lived. From there on, we have moved into 2005 to 2024, where we are saying women's right is far more defined in terms of what should I get from my ancestral property as well. If we all relate to these situations, we will see that though law, the courts, the legislation, all of these things have paved way for women to be able to get her property rights, in order to ensure that this will put her at par or as in parity along with her male counterparts. When we say this, we're saying this consciously because women as we are made are social beings, okay, and the socio economic, socio ethos, the cultural upbringing, the background in which we all have been brought up makes it extremely difficult for the woman to come out into the world and say, I want to agitate my right. Let me give you an example here. The wife who survives her husband lives with two of her sons and has a daughter who is also supporting her morally, is supporting her financially and so on. Yet the mother, as she is made out, will say the properties would be, her flat would be written off, or the husband will have told her, she'll say, my husband told me when I pass, the flat should go to my sons, and for this she will give you a several justification. And the girl typically will will say, no, I don't want to burn bridges with my parents, I do not want to burn bridges with my brothers, and therefore I would not precipitate the fight on I should get a share in the property. So what does this translate to? That the surroundings we live in, the ethos that we are brought up with, the cultural circumstances in which we live, make it that much more difficult for a woman to agitate her rights in the ancestral or the parental asset. There was a survey conducted by UN a few years back, and the data that UN collected while doing this survey is pretty alarming. Parents who want their girls or the woman to inherit property is only 1%. Parents who did not want to give their girl child or bequeath anything to their girl child, means that upon their passing they do not wish to leave anything for the girl child. Any guesses? Is 42%. And brothers who said, no, my sister should not be given any inheritance right, was 51%. And the community we live in, our neighbors, our societal circumstances said, you know what percentage? 45% of the community said, no, the girl should not be given any right to inherit property. This was the alarming data that UN collected. So what does this only goes around to say that women being the sensitive being and the patriarchal society that we live in makes it that much more difficult for us to assert our rights. The law can do multiple things. Law can frame its rules, law can make its law, there'll be courts that hear it in one odd cases and pass an order. But for a society as a whole, for a community as a whole, we still are extremely shy of agitating our rights. Rightly so. Because I don't want to burn bridges with my brother. What will happen if I am in need of something? Should I turn back to my parental home, etc., etc. So this has brought in a kind of taboo, if one can use the word taboo, to say if a woman asks for her right in the ancestral property, if the woman asks for her right in the ancestral property, or asks for some right from her parents, then it is not termed, or she is not looked upon very kindly by society. Now, having said this, evolutionary trends in the Indian narrative on women's right to property is a continuous journey. This goes on and on and on, and every time we reach, what are we doing? 100 years now since the first law on women's rights came into force, and we are yet, even today, discussing how do we improve it, and what is the need, and where is the addition required. Empowerment may be defined in several ways. I will categorize it into 3 or 4 components. Empowerment is to secure a sense of self-worth in the woman. Women to be given a choice of action. Women to have a right to access in every field of activity or resources, including the right to property. 4, to control her own life within the parameters of her duty to family and her workplace. 5, her ability, this is really crucial, because her ability to influence the direction of a social change so as to create a just and fair economic order both nationally and internationally. She, these economic rights that are vested in women, when you educate, like it's usually said, when you educate a woman, you educate a family. Similarly, when we vest property rights in women, the property rights directly and indirectly empowers her to commit herself to the nation building as a whole. It is not a feminist area, though feminist as a word itself is not a wrong word. When she comes out, when the woman is empowered, when the woman is given the right to property, she is in a way becoming far more responsible in what she is delivering to the economic growth of this country, of the country as a whole. I mean, these are some of my favorites. As a woman, what have we? We are so inherently sensitive. We bring this beautiful sensitivity into our homes. When we bring this sensitivity into our home, we also act very responsibly. We are, in a way, the best economists that the nation can have. Within the framework of funding that I have, I ensure that I carry out several activities. I multitask, I save, as a woman, we put these things into different pockets, hold them all together, and ensure that not only our family, but people around us are made better people and better empowered to make this a far more responsible world to live in. And this is what we are teaching our children, right? So coming back, when you empower her with a right to property, it gives her a sense of purpose with which she responsibly takes on the task of contributing to the nation as a whole. Having said that, there are different components to property holding. Today we see, like I see a whole lot of young participants here who are listening to me are all empowered. Everybody is working today. Everybody knows how to assert their rights. Everyone here, I assume, is working towards owning a property. However, if we even pause and look at it, how many single women buy a property? You're all banking institution, you're a banker, you are scrutinizing documents, borrowers come to you. How many individual single women do we find? Very small percentage, if at all. A couple of weeks back, I had a client who walked in, and she's a senior executive in a multinational. She walks in and tells me that her banker would not allow her to borrow as a single borrower or as a sole borrower, and for the purchase of the flat, it would be ideal if she had the name of either her brother or her father, since she was unmarried. Isn't it mind-boggling in a world today that we are looking at a situation where we still think men are the ones who would hold a hand, and that is what brings in security even when we are allowing a mortgage or a loan to be advanced. This is not what the law says. However, However, it is our own mindset, our own social backgrounds with which we think that this is the only way to work it. So, what does one do here? Or what do we look at as various parameters that are put in place or need to be put in place to empower or to encourage single women or women to buy properties? Let's look at tax regime, for instance. If a man contributes to the purchase of a flat in the name of his wife who is not working, there is no tax benefit. If the tax benefits have to fall in place, of course these are all economic policies, we don't really have, and policy decisions. However, would we not think that if there was some benefit given, there would be more effort made to allow women to hold properties? Now, the second aspect, on stamp duty. In Maharashtra, we have a benefit of taking, of course there is it's prevalent in certain other states as well, that you can exercise your right to buy it as a single woman, avail a stamp duty benefit that is probably brought in place to encourage women to be sole purchasers, so that the little bit of stamp duty benefit allows her to be a property owner. But when we take a little broader view on this and look at it, there is an embargo that she will not sell the premises for a certain period of time. The minute you tag your benefit together with a condition, the benefit fails. When I'm buying a property, I should have the power not only to buy, I should have the power to buy, I should have the power to retain, I should have the power to sell at my will. So these things, though they bring in certain amendments, they introduce certain benefits, it's not an absolute one. One may ask, why do we spend so much time and energy in talking about women empowerment constantly? Why do we constantly talk about women in property, women and upliftment, women and empowerment? What is this woman that we are all talking about? Why and why not men? In a patriarchal society, the men have everything already placed. It's the woman who needs to be empowered in order to release her into the world as individuals, as responsible citizens. While she is able to discharge both of these in a very conscious way, it's also necessary that we ensure that she is well equipped and well supported and feels secure and responsible for the duties that she is delivering as not only a homemaker but a mother and a partner in the scheme of the running of the household. Now comes the need for us to look at certain documentation that we would leave behind if we want to ensure that these are subject to what we want our families to enjoy post our being. It is necessary that we leave behind testamentary documents wherein the bequeathing is complete and made in a way that our families are able to enjoy what is allowed by us for them. Testamentary documents, namely the wills, become a very, very important part of our documentation and responsible for leaving behind the properties that are held by us. It's very, very simple, easy, and relatable document. It can be a handwritten document, it can be a typed document, it can be registered. You can have just two witnesses will suffice, unless you think that there is a dispute and requires a larger need for registration. The other aspect that one would really need to concentrate on is how do we get the properties in our names once or on the passing of the testator. I'm giving you this with an example. When the father or the male member of the family passes and leaves behind his wife and 4 children, for instance, what do I do? There is no will. There are nominations, and we all know the limitations of nomination. And with this situation, what are we trying to say? What we are doing here is that without creating or with minimal complication, we want the properties to go to our family as is decided by the family. I'm not getting disputed areas. If there's a dispute, let's deal with it separately. But when there is consensus, how do I deal with it in the absence of a will? Now, the wife decides that, or the father says, or the family decides that the oldest son will retain one house, the second son will retain the office premises, the daughter gets nothing, the second daughter will get the clinic, and the mother will relinquish her share in all of these properties. So the more easier way than entering the court for probating would be to release all your shares, your 1/5 undivided share, in favor of the other people who are beneficiaries to this and beneficiaries to the assets of the deceased, and people who are holding this premises for future. So it's a easier and a much more cordial way of resolving this by ensuring that release deeds are drawn up and registered in order to allow the sons and the daughters to hold the rights as was decided by the family. Nomination, yes, nominations are very, very useful documents when it comes to the corporate or issues which we relate only to the corporate, and this helps in including the housing societies or the industrial societies, wherein the nomination helps you to deal with the corporate as far as their interaction is concerned. This enables us to hand over the society, or the corporate is able to transfer it in favor of the nominee, and the nominee deals with the corporate for all purposes. However, the family thereafter can decide between themselves as to how the property can be distributed inter se amongst them. To this extent, nomination is very, very useful and very, very convenient document. Asset management as a whole is a very, very important aspect of any property related transaction within a family. So everything from how you check your documents when you buy it to what are the terms when you sell your property is a whole scheme of things. Now, looking at the present generation of women who are financially independent, who are capable of paying mortgages.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Somebody is talking.
Ma'am, you can continue.
Okay. So should I continue?
Dipali, do you have any question that you would like to ask right now? Or else I can suggest this, that participants can, reserve your questions at the end of the session. I think let ma'am continue right now.
I will wind up in 2 minutes, and I'll open it for questions. Okay.
Okay, ma'am, you can continue.
Yeah. Okay. So we coming to a situation where with more and more women, the younger generation of women being more financially independent and venturing into the economic strata of society which can afford to buy its own premises. It is important for you to look at end-to-end documentation and ensure that these properties that you acquire are duly and properly vetted by somebody who knows the nuances of what the property document should contain. While it's also seen that even being working women, even being independent, economically independent, still all of us have the need or the necessity to buy it along with our partner or parents. While we do that, we also need to be very conscious of the fact that when you buy it jointly with your spouse or with your parents, you dilute your share to that extent of the property holding, unless your document talks otherwise. So there are, though on a larger scale, one realizes that buying property is very important. One is not looking at long term in terms of what is its implication. Should there be a difficulty in executing or wanting to get out of that transaction? There's one very important area of rights that are not yet covered by the legislation, which is what happens to the rights of women in the event of divorce. When an asset stands in the name of the husband or the male alone, the right of a woman or the wife to that property is restricted to possession right alone. That is, during her lifetime, she has a right to stay there alone. However, has no say whatsoever in how that property has to be dealt with, or would she have a right in the property. Because we yet do not recognize homework or as a homemaker that you have a right in the property of the male member. Though worldwide it has changed, in India it has not yet changed. So Dr. Beena Agarwal did a survey in Kerala wherein she did a survey on when women held properties, then what was the rate of violence, and when women did not hold properties, so what happened to the violence rate. So this was somewhat related to violence on women. So it was alarming, that study. Dr. Beena Agarwal is a prize-winning development economist. When she did this survey, she found that women who were without any land or house, I pause here and I want to tell you, I'm sure all of you know, in Kerala alone, in India, it is a matriarchal society. Unlike all other states where you have patriarchy, here it's matriarchal. So the woman is the head of the family here. And the lineage is mother to daughter, daughter to granddaughter, and so on. So here also, it was found by Dr. Beena Agarwal that women who did not hold home or land, the violence against them was 49%. The minute the lady or the woman was holding a land parcel, the violence rate dropped to 7%. And when there was a house held, that is land plus house, if the woman held land plus house, the rate dropped to 10%. So I'm pointing this out because when the woman did not hold any right to property, the violence rate was almost close to 50%. So the very fact that it is necessary not only for the purposes of securing her right, but also it's necessary in order to ensure that violence against women is reduced or is brought to bare minimum. In order to do that, it's also important that rights of women are rights to the property is vested in women. So now if there's any questions, I will take questions, please. Chitrali, if there's no questions, then we can wind up.
Ma'am, there's a question in the chat box by Pooja Kamath ma'am, and she said that can there be multiple nominees for a property?
Yes. Yes. There can be multiple nominees to a property, definitely. Definitely. You can have multiple nominees to a property, but the status of the nominee will continue to be that of a trustee. And you might also probably find there may be rules within the societies, within bylaws, within the banking bylaws, etc., where it might say the first nominee will be the person they will deal with.
Okay, I had one query.
Yeah.
Can it be like if the property is in the name of father and son, and in case if something happens to the son, then how does the wife, how will be the wife be getting the benefit of the property? How does the property division will be? How it will be like?
Okay. If the property was held by the father and son, then the son is deemed to be holding 50% of that property. Okay. So if we say if it is a flat in, let us say, Andheri West, okay, and or somewhere else. Where are you from?
From Prabhadevi, madam.
Okay, so you hold a flat in Prabhadevi, and the father and son together hold a property. Upon the demise of the son's 50% undivided share will go to his wife and children. Suppose he dies without wife and children, then there is a different lineage. It will come to the mother and the sister and so on, brothers and so on. Father and mother it will go to.
Okay, I recently had one of the cases where it was in one of my branches. Where this lady's husband had expired, okay, and the property was taken in husband-wife's name. The husband expired, and the wife was the nominee that time. Now the mother from somewhere, with the inputs of her respective relatives, she came up with this idea that she want the rights in the son's property also, the demised son's property also. So she kind of demanded it from the lady, the
That's
widow.
correct. No. That
And
is
how
correct.
how can this affect, and can this come up later on? Like, this is my query.
Yes, if he didn't leave a will, if the husband died without leaving a will, then the mother becomes also entitled to it.
As in, I'm talking about the son's property, yeah?
Yes, son's
The mother
property.
is-
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Son's property. Who are the legal heirs when the son dies? When the son dies,
The
it's the wife and
Yeah.
the children. And if mother is alive, mother is also entitled to it. So
Yeah, that's the thing. Because
Yes.
this case had come up, and we had the housing loan with us, and a lot of complications in that case. but ultimately it was a legal call. So I just wanted to know like how it
Yes.
works.
It works like that. If he didn't leave a will, mother becomes one equal shareholder, she equally entitled to it. So
Okay.
if he died with wife, 2 children, and mother, all of them get 1/4 share each.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one more question somebody asked.
If a married daughter is a nominee in her parents' property, is it transferable in her name?
Yes, it is. If it, whether married or unmarried, that situation has come to an end. All of them become equally entitled to it under the Hindu Succession Act or the Indian Succession Act as well. So they become equally entitled to it, and the daughter's name will be endorsed on the share certificate or wherever she is. If it's not a share certificate, but again, because she's only a nominee, she holds it in trust for everybody. If you have a specific case, I can make it more specific.
In case of contradiction in the nominee and will, what will override?
Will override.
Okay. There's another question.
Also the will should be registered, right?
Not necessary. Not necessarily registered. There is no compulsory registration, but compulsorily 2 witnesses.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, what's the other question?
There's another question that says, can the husband claim a right in the property of wife in the process of divorce?
He is not a owner. Is he a owner of the property or no?
No, he's not.
The
He's
case.
not,
Tell us
no.
in both cases.
No. Oh, I'll tell you in both cases, yeah. Suppose he is the owner of the property, then his property right continues. Therefore, yes, he can ask for a right. If it is in the sole name of the wife, he gets no rights.
Someone has asked that after divorce, if there is wife's right, so is there a wife's right on husband's property after divorce?
No, that's exactly what I told you, right? Around the world, the law is that the minute you get married, his existing property and his future property all become the family property or the marital property. Okay, only in India it does not become that. In India, the minute you get married, if the property is, whether it's in his name or not, whether before divorce or after divorce, the woman gets no right whatsoever in that property. All that she gets is during her lifetime she can stay there. At least as of now, that is the law. There was an amendment that was proposed that was called the Women's. Just give me a second. That amendment was called. Some 2010 there was an amendment that was proposed to introduce this very fact that once they get married, the property should become a common property. Okay, it was called the Women's something laws of 2010, Hindu Marriage Laws Amendment of Bill of 2010. But if we can all laugh at it, it seems the legislation scrapped it because it lapsed in the parliament, and the discussion on this which I heard was very laughable, that in case they give this kind of right to the woman, the divorce rates will increase and the woman will start disrespecting men, and so it dropped. Chaitali, anything more?
Can a minor be added in the will without a guardian?
you'll have it this one, no, it's better to have a guardian. It is also that your executor will automatically take protection, no, will protect his rights. And if there is a natural guardian surviving, then the natural guardian will get the right automatically. As in, the natural guardian will hold the umbrella. Yeah, awesome. Very nice talking to all of you. And thank you all. Have a lovely time. Oh, is there another one? There's another question.
There is a question.
Yes, I'll take that. Yeah.
Yes. If property is purchased by daughter, mother, and father, and if the son is an NRI, does he have the right in property?
Yes, because he gets a property in the right of the mother and the father, not in the name of in the daughters. So that gets divided by 3, right? So
yeah.
So the right of the father and the mother goes to him, unless they gift it during their lifetime or they will it out to the daughter. NRI status alone does not, take away his right to succession.
Property is registered in the maiden name. And after a couple of years, the name is changed after marriage. Is there a process to change the after marriage name in the registered agreement?
She has to you have to go about with the gazette and hold this together. But if you have the purchaser, if you have the vendor still around, maybe you can try a rectification deed. But I mean, no, won't work.
Is there anybody else? Does anyone else have any questions for ma'am? Okay. Ma'am, there are some questions coming now.
Okay.
In case of a married daughter not being a nominee, no will made, what is the procedure to follow?
In case of can you just repeat it, please?
In case of a married daughter not being a nominee, and there is no will that is made, what is the procedure to follow?
Oh, she gets undivided right, exactly like her brothers or her mother or whatever it is. What procedure to follow? She can, if they are in good terms, I told you that all of you can enter into a family settlement. If you are not in great terms, then you have to file a suit before the civil court to asking for your undivided share, which could be 1%, which could be 1/4 or half or whatever it is. Your share basically.
Has any question? Or can we? We'll wait for another minute just to see if anybody has a question. And then maybe we can wind up. Not one, but two actually.
Yeah.
So it says flat was purchased in 1967. Only share certificate is on record. Is that sufficient? So flat was purchased in 1967 and there's only a share certificate on record. Is that sufficient?
This is a slightly tricky question. I can just give you a broad answer to this. If it is in the city of Mumbai, there are different ways to check whether that title would suffice. For example, if it is a flat that was purchased in a housing society or an industrial complex, wherein there is conveyance of the property and you have been allotted this share, then that will suffice, definitely will suffice. If not, you probably have a letter of allotment, maybe that will suffice. However, having said all this, you can't do anything much to go back to 1967 to create a document. So you will have to take a letter from your society to say that that was the only document available. Or if it is lost, then you follow the procedure. And however, if it was registered in 1967, you can trace the document in the records of the sub-registrar.
There's another question. I think we'll take this as the last question. So, if property is purchased jointly by the husband and the wife, and the son or the daughter is a minor, and if something wrong happens to both, what will be the consequences of it? Will it be transferred based on a family tree? I think that is the follow-on to the question.
Okay. Whether there's a family tree or no family tree, the law provides that it will go to the children entirely. If jointly purchased, so 100% will go to the two children, two minor children, and they will be protected by the court, by the law, and it will remain with them till such time they become majors. And anybody who wants to do anything to the property will have to take the leave of the court. They'll have to apply to the High Court, make all securities or provide for securities of the two minor children before they can use or do any take any steps towards the properties. Yeah, I think we've tried to cover, but all of you can send us emails or whatever with your queries, and we are available to take any of your calls.
So thank you so much, ma'am. I mean, we've had a very enriching session. Even personally for me, I've learned quite a lot with this webinar, although 1 hour is quite a short time to understand the nuances of, women's rights. But I think you've, in your own way, covered a lot for our basic understanding. So thank you so much for taking time out and, taking the effort to put things across to us in a very simple manner. It was definitely a very insightful webinar. And on behalf of everybody attending the seminar, our board of management, our board of directors, our top managing committee, we'd like to extend a very, very big thank you to you. And thank you so much for this.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. All of you have a lovely Women's Day weekend, and hope to meet you all soon. Okay, we'll take any of your mails. If you have any queries, just do mail to us. And sorry, the personal discussion would have been nicer, but this is the best we can do on a webinar. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So may I request all the Wonder Women to stay back? Just a little more. I'll be sharing the link with you in your chat.